What is going on, YouTubeverse? John Stanek from Johnny Radio here, bringing you some more quality content. And I'm trying something new today, something I've never done on the channel before, and that's a tier list. A lot of other YouTubers have been doing this for a while, and it seems like a lot of fun. And I thought I would try it with one of my favorite bands of all time that I just did my top five of their my top five favorite Radiohead songs this past Friday, and it seems to have done really well. This video just kind of blew up, so I was like, let me keep in the Radiohead vein here. And since their discography is one of the greatest, possibly the greatest discography ever out of any band, and that's including the Beatles themselves, my favorite band. It's probably really close. Maybe I'll do a tier list of them next if if you guys want to see more of this. But let's get into it, man. I want to see how this goes. I'm going to share my screen with you right now, and I've got it ready to go. What's cool about these too, I think it's kind of fun. You can make your own titles over here. So instead of the S, A, B, I think it's C, D tiers, I just use some kind of either lyrics or Radiohead related things. So Perfect Body is a perfect album. That's of course from Creep. Want a Perfect Body, Want a Perfect Soul. This Kid's an A, obviously a Kid A reference there. That would be an A. And then Optimistic is, I guess, in the B range. Okay would be C range, and D or below disappear completely. I can assure you there will be none of those on this tier list. As I said, Radiohead's got one of the best in the game. But before I get into it, I just want to kind of tell you how, and this might be a little off from how you guys rank things with numbers, but anything that I would put up in the perfect body would be like from a 90 to a 100. So not necessarily perfect, but definitely like, a near perfect masterpiece. This Kid's an A is actually anything from like 80 to 89 in my book. And I may be doing this wrong or whatever, or differently than you guys do, but let me know in the comments below, as this is my first time. Go gentle on me. So Optimistic would be in the 70s range. Okay would be in the 60s range, and Disappear Completely would be lower than that. That's just my thinking on this. But let's start this. So I'm going to go chronologically here. We're going to start with Pablo Honey, which is definitely, I would say, one of their weaker albums. Everybody's got to start somewhere, but even at a weak album for Radiohead, that to me is still in the optimistic level. I mean, just Creep alone, which is an amazing track, and still to this day, even though some people give it flack for, even Radiohead themselves have called it fridge buzz or whatever. There's a lot of great tracks on here, and watching the Live at the Astoria performance from 1995, which was half Pablo Honey, half the Benz material. The Pablo Honey stuff mixes in perfectly with the Benz, songs like You, Ripcord, fantastic stuff. So Creep was not necessarily a one-hit wonder either, if that's what some of you were thinking. But yeah, and that brings us to the Benz, which I think was a huge jump in quality. And I am going to put this all the way up here, man. It is, yeah, a perfect body of work, to say the least. I mean, it comes close to being my favorite Radiohead album, quite honestly. I mean, High and Dry, Fake Plastic Trees, some of their greatest softer acoustic songs. Nice Dream as well. There is not a weak track on this album at all. Title track, as some of you saw, is my favorite Radiohead song. I think it's just tremendous, all the twists and turns that it takes, and while still being very accessible. And then you've got Just, one of their greatest rockers, My Iron Lung, Street Spirit, for God's sakes. I mean, I could go on and on about this album. It's so good. But let's go right on to the next perfect album. You knew I was going to put this here. I mean, you see it behind my head on my wall of perfect albums. So this one is perfect to me. It's definitely a 10 out of 10. just, I've gone on and on about this album in various forms on my channel already, but The Tourist, my favorite track on here. I think it's one of the strongest closing tracks to any album of all time. And then, of course, Airbag, such a strong opener. Everything in between, the kind of loose concept album that it has, and just it's just on another level, man. It's right up there with some of the greatest albums of all time. So yeah, this is looking pretty good so far for the Radioheads. So coming after that was Kid A, which initially, if I'm being honest, like on first listen, it was probably more in the okay range because I just was like, what is this on some of those tracks? But the more this grew on me, and the more time that went by, and obviously it was getting praised as something way ahead of its time, which it is looking back on it. Songs like the national anthem, and even the title track which is one of those kind of what is this at first. It's got its own weird, catchy vibe to it, but How to Disappear Completely, um, Idiotech. Oh my God, so many amazing tracks that there was nothing like it at the time. And it keeps me from putting it up here just on repeat listenability. Some of the songs don't have that for me, like Tree Fingers and things like that. Um, but there's nothing bad on it by any means, and everything in its right place. Such an amazing song. It's innovative. It's man, when it came out, man, it was just like wow. So yeah, right, coming right next to that is Amnesiac, which for some time I actually liked that album more than Kid A, and I almost see them as companion pieces to one another. Like they were recorded at the same time. Obviously Kid A little bit more in the electronic vein for a lot of it than Amnesiac. Amnesiac, and has a little more guitar oriented stuff like I Might Be Wrong, and then of course Life in a Glass House, kind of like a jazzy thing going on, a little all over the place in a good way. But I feel like they're almost, you could almost say they're like a double album, but I would rate it almost the same. I think it's fantastic. And that brings us to Hail to the Thief, which I think also kind of in the same vein of these two. A lot of people, I remember at the time that it came out, were excited that there was even more guitar oriented stuff, like kind of tying these along with the Benz and OK Computer. They were saying it's their comeback or something, which what a weird thing to say looking back now. But yeah, man, I mean, what an amazing album. And to think it was recorded in such a short period of time, like over a week, I think, in LA. But 2 + 2 = 5, Sail to the Moon, my gosh, Mixomatosis. Like you could feel that they were just having fun on that record, and it really shows on some of that stuff, even though there's of course some very gloomy tracks. But this is Radiohead we're talking about here, so that's the norm. So then here I would call this perfect, In Rainbows. Man, how amazing was that? And when it came out too, the way they released it, where anybody could pay anything for it, so crazy. But I mean, Reckoner, one of my favorite songs of all time. All I Need, such an amazing track. Body Snatchers, every song on here, Weird Fishes. Oh my God. House of Cards, beautiful. And I think this is where Radiohead kind of unlocked a new level in their repertoire. They kind of got a little more sexy on this album, if that makes sense. And I think they leaned into that from here on out. But I think this was the one where they did it the best. And man, there's nothing bad on In Rainbows. So good. So I mean, look at this, man. This is, I'm not using even the okay tier with these guys. They are more than okay in my book. And now some of you would probably put this next one at okay or below, but I really like The King of Limbs. I think it's better than most people give it credit for. I think that the ballads here, Give Up the Ghost and Codex, are just some of their most beautiful ballads of their entire discography. Some of the stuff doesn't work as good, when in comparing to other albums, but you know, um, it's really a strong album. It's concise at just 8 songs. Lotus Flower, the video with Tom York dancing around is hilarious. Bloom, I mean, what a great opener. So yeah, gotta have it in the optimistic range. So now, possibly the final Radiohead album. There's still to this day a lot of speculation, like will they ever get back together? And so I may have to revisit this tier list one day, and I hope that's the case. I hope Radiohead makes more music together, but you know what, the Smile is pretty darn good too. So if Radiohead is officially over and we got nothing but the Smile going forward, I'll be okay with that. I really do hope Radiohead does it, but as a final album, this is nothing to sneeze at, man. I'd put it right here too. I know a lot of people would put it much higher, but to me, A Moon-Shaped Pool, I don't know, it's a little too dark for me overall. I mean, it does have its lighter moments, like The Numbers, which I think is a really cool, loose, jammy thing that I wish they had leaned into a little bit more on that record, a little bit more of that kind of vibe. But then, Dark's Deck is also fantastic, and I love the piano on there and Tom's vocal, and of course, True Love Waits. We've been waiting for that for such a long time, but I always tend to go back to like the live acoustic version of that song. This one just feels too sad, and I think a lot of this album does just feel like too sad and dark, and that Tom was going through that headspace at the time, so I give it a pass for that. But Moon-Shaped Pool, man, another solid record from one of the greatest bands of all time, honestly. And yeah, this, just looking at this tier list right here, I mean, you can just zoom in and see 3 perfects, 3 A's, 3 B's, and nothing below that. Yeah, that's my opinion. So let me know in the comments below what you think, and yeah, I would love to hear what how you would rank yours. I know it's kind of hard to leave in the comments like how you would rank a tier list or whatever, but let me know what you think of mine, and if you think I should do more tier lists in the future. Had a blast doing it, so might do some more of my favorite bands. I'm not that much of a completist, to be honest with you, so there's not that many artists and bands that I've listened to their entire discography, but I guess you can also do tier lists for different things, like songs from an album or whatever. So let me know in the comments below what you think I should do one of next. Definitely the Beatles. I'm thinking about that, and maybe Zeppelin, who I think also probably is right up there as having one of the greatest discographies ever. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching. We got top fives every Friday, album reviews, big countdowns, and so much more. Thank you for watching, and as always, Viva La Vinyl. So guys, thanks so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, and be sure to ring the bell for notifications so you can always see great quality content like you're seeing on the screen right now. Thank you so much for supporting Johnny Radio, and I'll see you soon.